If you feel like you're torn between being authentic and compromising in life, then this is the piece that's been missing, because it's not one or the other. Spirit's saying real authenticity is the wisdom to honor the self in the present moment and to also move in such a way that creates the best outcome ahead. So right off the bat, they're showing me a horse with us as the driver, like us having the reins of a horse. And they're saying the horse is like the heart. The horse is the power with which you move through life. And once we become present, we bring in our awareness, and Spirit's saying then you become like the reins. You have the reins on the heart, on the horse. We have to honor the horse. If the horse wants to rest, we have to honor that. If the horse wants to go play and frolic, we have to honor that. If they're hungry, we have to honor that. But they're saying that we can't control the horse, and that's by design. We're not meant to control or micromanage any part of ourselves. We're meant to influence. We're meant to gently, lovingly influence. If there's any wiggle room, that's when we're meant to use the reins. So they're saying this is like a level of shadow work that we're constantly doing with ourselves. It's like today we don't feel like going to the gym. Okay, another day we don't feel like going like the gym, and it's like, hey, we already took 2 days off. We gotta go. So wisdom says we're going to nudge the horse, we're going to nudge the heart and say, look, down the road, this is way more beneficial if we show up than if we don't show up. Spirit's saying this may not feel authentic because you don't feel like doing it, but actually this wisdom that's coming in that is disciplining the self, this is actually also part of the authentic self. So us acquiescing, us compromising in a situation doesn't mean we're not being who we are. And they're nudging me right now to share a personal experience. I had a rumble tumble with the system for about 3 weeks of my life, and it was a gnarly experience. There was a lot of gaslighting involved. There were people trying to say I did things I didn't do. There was perjury. There was all sorts of nonsense. And I was responsible for kind of getting myself into the situation. I take responsibility for that vibrationally. But like what happened was way beyond what I could have imagined. I mean, it was like straight out of the movies. And I was guided to just move with grace and calm. Spirit was like, this is not the time to lash out. Right now, you're going to have to acquiesce in the situation. They're like, it's going to look like you're taking 2-3 steps backwards, like you're actually losing. They're like, but what's actually happening is you are moving into non-resistance, okay? So instead of moving in this pushing kind of energy and trying to force, I started to soften, okay? And I did. It really honestly felt like I was bending over to the system, okay? It was like really, it felt really demeaning, okay? I'm not gonna lie. What happened was I asked for I basically got outside eyes on the situation after about 2 weeks. And once I did, and they saw how collected and all of my testimony compared to all the nonsense that was coming out of whatever these representatives for the system, everything got dropped. Like it was like, oh my gosh, this is clearly like some kind of mismanagement. These are human rights violations, like all sorts of nonsense. And they just wanted to bury it as fast as possible. That's pretty much what happened. And I just like felt the system, and Spirit saying, when we choose to do this, it's kind of like, look, we're like very crystallized beings. When we dig our heels in or we feel a certain way about something, they're saying it's not even about whether it's ethical or not. Spirit's all about justice, okay? So whenever we get into social justice warrior mode, I think that Spirit is really, really behind it. They love that when we want to get out in the field of action, kind of like a little kickback to Krishna from the Gita. Gita was like, Arjuna, get out on the field of action, okay? You're here to play your dharma. So Spirit's all about that. But all of this stuff is orchestrated so that we can develop certain skills as we move through the experience. Like we're spiritual athletes, essentially. And they're saying that as our crystallization, we're kind of like snow. Like if we were like a solidified version of water, we're not going to be able to penetrate the surface. But if you were to become non-resistant and more fluid, if you were to bend and acquiesce or surrender, whatever kind of energy or word terminology you want to use, like water, you would be able to seep through the cracks. Wherever there was a way through, as water, you could do it. As crystallized snow, as ice, as rigid, as fixed in your righteousness, even if you're in a very righteous position, they're saying you cannot penetrate, you can't move through that. So sometimes you have to soften, and it does seem like you're losing, okay? It may seem like this acquiescence is like you are going to lose. You become quiet, you're not fighting back. But actually, this allows the pattern to dissolve. If there's any movement for dissolution of whatever resistance is creating this in the reflection, they're saying it will just dissolve. And that was my personal experience, like with the example that I gave. So they're also saying it's not about right or wrong. Whatever path that we take, if we take, like, let's say, an authentic path of boundaries and speaking our truth and so on, they're saying that's just as valid as saying, okay, I'm going to capitulate this time and I'm not sure if I'm going to speak out on this right now. I'm going to bide my time. I'm going to measure it. They're saying actually you're totally supported in whatever route you take. It's not about right or wrong. It's about the experience of choosing as you're moving through it. And now they're giving the examples saying how we're all supported, like different species, different creatures. A sloth is supported. A sloth doesn't go out of its way to do much, and it eats very well. It lives very well. You know, it's a pretty chubby creature. And they're saying some creatures are like squirrels and they want to hustle for everything. They think everything has to be earned and gained. They're saying whatever is your I am, you're going to get it. And as you evolve, it's not to say you're a static creature. No one can ever replace us. We are inviolate. Same way that nobody would ever mistake the Ganges River for the Mississippi River. In the same way, even if the contours of the river change, even if the substance or the whatever water is flowing through it changes, nobody would mistake those. That's how inviolate we are as perspectives of source. We are completely inviolate, but we are constantly evolving and changing. And they're saying it's not to say that there aren't right things and wrong things. Like there's things that are ethical and things that are not, of course. But it's less about that and about where you're choosing from where you're beginning. Because some of us as actors, we like are born into very challenging, unethical kind of situations. We may have to do crazy things to get out of those situations. Like that happens in life. So they're saying it's not so much about this kind of binary, right, wrong, kind of black and white perspective that a lot of humans have. They're saying it's about how you move through that situation. Actually, it's all very authentic. It's all very authentic. The whole experience is about moving through with what's as true for yourself. But as you step into greater and greater wisdom and presence, you will be able to see near and far. And so when the horse wants to rest right now, but you know that if the horse can make it 1 hour more, it's going to be much better for whatever the reason. So then you're going to nudge that horse, that heart, that part of yourself, hey, let's make it to the gym. Let's get to the next step. That's what the wisdom does. And then sometimes the wisdom says, you know what? There's no point in pushing. Right now, the heart doesn't want to do anything, and that's it. This is kind of a strategic acquiescence, which is actually very authentic to the self, because in our society, there's this idea that being authentic is really being loud and proud and all of that. But Spirit's saying it does work the other way, okay? Real authenticity is also having this wisdom to be able to see the long run. I could be authentic right now and just let my horse lead the show, or I can see down the road and see what's really a truly reflection of me and a little bit more mature version of me, and choosing that. So that's the message for today. Being authentic isn't about one or the other. Sometimes being authentic is compromising. Sometimes being authentic is acquiescing, because that's a wise, authentic self that's playing kind of a longer game and can see down the road. If you enjoyed this message, please share your beautiful energy, like, subscribe, share, and comment. And if you're interested in coaching, Akashic record readings, or visionary art, you'll find all that information in the description box. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you in the next message.